Zeri, Yumi kind of stuff, things like this. And then that Zeri was removed from the game, apparently from all the nerfs, and Felios was coming in, Lucian Nami was coming in. Then obviously with Worlds, we saw crazy stuff happening like Ashheimer. Stuff like that Ashheimer, which is very funny to play, is still strong. It's still good. It's still playable. So those kind of things are at Worlds kind of defined a meta. It's very funny that you end up saying Heimer support defined a meta at Worlds, but going into games like this, these are kind of some picks at Ashes as an ADC isn't something that's particularly difficult. So it'd be interesting to see if they do play stuff like that as well. Because I just want to see bloody League of Legends. I want to see fighting across the map.
Yeah.
I don't want to see any of this with the changes. Just pick
Korean high concept, clean.
Who needs it?
We want the LPL or the LJL in here. If you're not beating each other into the ground, it's not the kind of League of Legends that we want to be watching.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Why are you playing calm and collected League? If you have the ability to smash buttons, just do it. Smash them as hard as possible. And possibly, with these jungle changes, we might get to see fighting a little bit earlier on, because if you're being given the exact correct way to path, if you're being given the correct place to leash, you're not going to see any of those little mistakes that can creep in at this level. And so maybe we'll see these junglers come out of their clears a little bit healthier, a little bit quicker, and in a position to actually put the ganks down at an earlier point in the game.
And when it is preseason, it generally is when the game is at its bloodiest, right? Stuff isn't figured out, people just constantly fighting. And at this level, I think playing aggressive is super important, because taking people off kilter, so to speak, playing really hyper aggressive, people have to really react to that. They have to sit there and actually play into that. And it's something that requires a bit of experience, right? When you're playing against someone who's just playing hyper aggressive, you go, do they know their limits? I don't know their limit. Like, this is a new patch. This is a new game almost. So what am I doing? And I hope we do see lots of wanton aggression today, because it would be exciting to see. It would be brilliant to see, in fact.
That's a joy, I think, of this level of League of Legends. In the professional scene, they get a couple weeks to adjust to a patch to allow everybody to sort of get themselves together with what needs to happen, what's strong, what's not strong, what they want to play. At this level, if the patch changes on Tuesday and you're playing on Tuesday, you're playing on the new patch. You are figuring out what is good on this patch right now. We've seen it sort of screw teams over a lot. People in live patch scenarios played Wukong way too long after he was no longer relevant, but because he'd been good previously, and they didn't have either the knowledge or the time to really figure out that he was no longer good, he ended up getting an almost second patch worth of play that he didn't necessarily deserve. And so there might be a lot of hangover from that previous split that we had. All of the things that you saw, the World Championship can do the same thing. If you see Faker play something, you're like, that's clearly good. Probably not. Faker's good. But it means that people will have watched the best players in the world play on a previous patch, and so a lot of things might end up being outdated.
And one thing I will bring up is Cassante, right? It's a champion that is so new to the game, and it's been released so close to a preseason. It's so difficult to figure out, how, if someone brings this out, because it is a champion, it's a very interesting champion to play. It has a lot of, with the way you can go become a tank, then become a carry, then become a tank again.
Yeah.
It's really, for a lot of players, if you put time into that might catch people off guard, right? You might see people suddenly go, oh, I don't actually know the limits of Cassante. This one's played that.
Yeah.
Is a pick that you might see brought out just because it's so strange. And it is a champion that I think a lot of people, at least I've seen it being played a lot in the games I've been playing. A lot of people kind of enjoy playing him at the moment, or at least practice or playing a little bit of him. So I'm interested to see if he comes out, because I know a bit about Cassante and a bit about what he can do, but I think a lot of players in these games probably don't have that much experience facing it.
Do you have the confidence to pull out a new pick during the semi-finals? Because if you lose here, you are in a very bad spot. You have got to win this to put yourselves onto the finals. Do you want to risk playing something new? The reward could be massive, exactly like you said, if they don't know how to play against it. But if you don't know how to play it, your team is not going to be happy with you when you pull out something brand new and then run it all the way down.
You go on like Lolalytics and search for the highest win rate counter and go, well, no, it's really good. I promise. I know what I'm doing. And then ends up biting you in the backside. But again, I think, especially going into the finals, right, you don't want to show too much, because with this game is being streamed and potentially information available to you, if you end up having to bring out some of those surprise picks, maybe you've got stuff hidden. That at this level, you have some players that might go, well, on my other account, or I secretly have been practicing to the side mid, I played Ornn mid instead. And so you might see, stuff like that. But you don't have to bring that out.
Full tank mid.
Tank mid laners, it's coming back. With
Why
the
not?
item changes, it's coming back. But no, again, it's one of those things where I think you don't want to have to bring out too much, especially in a best of 3. Like in best of 1s, you sort of play what you feel comfortable in, etc., etc. You don't have too many sort of out there picks generally sometimes, but in best of 3s, if your back is against the wall, you're going to go, well, I've got to try this thing that I've been practicing, or I've got to try this thing that I've been sort of thinking is strong, especially with the changes to preseason. It might just pay up massive, but then going into finals, if that's what people are aware of that, you have a bit of a concern there, a little bit, I think.
I'm expecting game 1 to be pretty conservative, to be honest. I think there's always the counter between on game 1, it's a clean slate. If you lose, okay, we've still got the rest of the games to try to pull things back. But also, if you win, then all of a sudden you've changed everything. I think usually, though, people are quite conservative with their game 1. So they don't want to lose. They don't want to put themselves in that hole, like we said, with mental toughness. And so instead, this game 1, I'm not expecting anything too crazy. Maybe a couple of supports where supports probably shouldn't be played just because we've got some players out of position. But beyond that, I'm not expecting there to be too much up in the air, too much going crazy.
Yeah, but again, when you've got teams that have limited pools, it's interesting to see the next thing they picked out. Right? The Scion mid, we say Scion mid is coming, but you kind of expect it to be banned. And at that point, you're like, well, if you're a Scion OTP, what are you going to go for? What is your choice? Are you going to go for something that's like a mid laner that is pretty standard? Maybe you take an Ari, or maybe you go for something like I don't know, I'm not saying a Zir, but something that's pretty standard in mid lane, Lux or something.
Well, there is some Ari overlap in this mid lane. And so, I mean, if you are the side of Starlight with your mid laner playing a couple of champions, including Ari, versus Super Soft Socks, where Dreamy Luna only plays Ari, that's not a great position to be in. But again, I think Dreamy Luna's in a better position where it's not the end of the world that you play in the support role, because Lux, perfectly good mid laner, Seraphine, you're doing fine in the mid lane. A lot of them will be able to pull through.
Yeah, and again, hopefully, this, like Seraphine is a prime example. You can put it on 3 roles. You can do this kind of thing. You can flex it between bottom, mid, and top, and support. You can probably even play it top if you really wanted to. To be honest, this kind of thing where support enchanters, these kind of things, they're so strong, especially they can dictate games. So we'll have to see if those kind of things do come out, because you would imagine there'd be a few bans thrown either side towards the matchups where there are limited champ pools. And I mean, the one thing I've noticed, they both play they love Nunu in the jungle, which is
so much Nunu,
which is something you don't really see very often.
I'm thinking he might come through a little bit stronger, because there's a lot more in terms of giving your mana-based junglers boss a bit more mana and a bit more tank stats. Nunu quite likes to be a bit tanky and a bit AP, and I think those kinds of items are beginning to slide back into the meta a little bit more. A couple of additions too in that realm, and so you might be able to get away with a little bit more playing something like Nunu. You don't see Nunu too much in professional play because he's very telegraphed. And if you're playing Nunu in the early game, here's a great tip for you. If you think you win a fight, you don't. In a straight 1v1, you don't win that fight. Until you get to a little bit later into the game, 1 or 2 items, as Nunu, you will lose that 1v1 versus almost anybody. Once you get past that early game, though, and you can start using your ultimate effectively, it's a really strong pick. The speed at which you can clear is incredibly fast as well, and the ability to take down Drakes and Barons is so good. You can outsmite anybody. And so it's going to be really interesting to see how that's going to go.
Yeah, and also with the new smite, the Gustwalker smite, Nunu loves movement speed. So it could be you see him zooming out of the jungle at 1,000,000 miles an hour. With that smite change going to 1,200 as well, any objective could just be removed. So it would be exciting to see. I think we're soon going to be getting into draft, hopefully. See what ends up being brought. We've theory crafted a lot. We've been saying a lot about, what about Nunu, what about Sion? We'll have to see what is realized, what is actualized.
They're actually going to play none of the picks we've mentioned.
Nothing. they're gonna figure out some secret OP on the patch already, and we're sat here saying, well, actually, maybe Spear of Shojin is really good, and then it ends up being that, no, actually, they're just going to play triple enchanter with just stuff like this. But we are getting into draft now, and we see what the first ban comes out. As you'd imagine, there's a Lux ban. You imagine Sion and stuff on Ari is going to be pretty high up on the list of bans in this draft.
Yeah, we never did. We get confirmation on if Yuumi is still allowed or not.
It's banned.
There we go. Fair enough.
It's banned in the champ select, so I'm not going to see the magical cat.
Which is quite sad. I quite like the look of it. Currently, though, If you play support, no, you don't. Clearly, everybody's realised that we've got 4 supports out of 10 players, and it's banning everything. With that, Janna and Zyra off of the board, as well as the Lux Yuumi. There we go. Nunu comes off. That's another champion that we had talked about. And so one final ban, we'll see. Maybe it's going to be that Ornn, maybe it will be that Ahri, or is it going to be something completely different? Maybe it's going to be another Enchanter support.
Yeah, and we're going to get a Camille ban.
Okay.
Which is interesting to see. Not too sure. First picking here, we said, Ahri was something that was really high priority between them, but they're just going to take the Scion straight up.
Why wouldn't
even risk it?
Why wouldn't you when Zoe loves to play it so much and is incredibly good on it? It makes a lot of sense. This Vayne hover, that would be aggressive. Great into Scion, though. Could certainly be flexed into the mid lane to take on the Scion, or you could put it down in the AD carry role, more where you would expect. You might want to take your support to match up with the Vayne, and there you go, that's the Lulu.
And it's one of the few enchanters that are sort of a very good enchanter that you have left in this draft. As we see the Jinx in a reaction, you imagine they might take their support now as well.
Nami still on the board?
Left? I mean, Nami?
Sona? Nami and Sona, kind of the only 2 supports left up and available. There we go. Sona going to be locked in, and so it is still going to be some enchanter supports. Ahri coming through as well, exactly like we were talking about during the pregame.
Yeah, and we'll have to see whether they throw their bans towards jungle here, or whether they throw their bans towards top lane, because obviously they've both picked what you'd assume is going to be mids and bots here. Jungle, Nunu ban has already come through. We know they're both Nunu aficionados. Do you think do you think they're going to throw bans top, or do you think they prefer to sort of throw them towards that jungle pool and really send people sort of off kilter this game?
I think the jungle pool is a definite good place to start, especially because of these jungle changes making the role entirely unpredictable. This is going to be a missed ban, so we'll just ignore this one.
Well, there's going to be more champs available now. Wonderful. We see Gnar, so they're angling towards top. They're concerned maybe about that sort of blindable top laner in the Gnar. Maybe they throw an Ornn ban as well. As we were saying, putting your top laner on a safe pick.
Doesn't have a huge champion pool. The Camille, Gnar were kind of the main ones. They banned the Camille away from themselves, Supersoft Sharks. Now the Gnar is coming off of the board. There's that Ornn ban that you were talking about. And so Starlight doesn't play top lane. So Ornn, one of the main big tanky, not really too skilled champions up in the top lane, taking that off the board. Sejuani going to be locked in. Now, I think that this is going to be a jungle Sejuani. Pumpkin Pixie does play it. Sorry, Firefosa in the jungle does play it.
Yeah, and see the Lilia as well. This is now, could be a top lane Lilia, but we'll have to see on their final pick what they end up, where they decide it goes. Okay, Shen hover. Shen is one of those top laners that generally can just sort of farm, affect the rest of the map.
Yeah.
Pretty, I wouldn't say easy top laner, but one that if you aren't particularly most confident in top lane, you'd be pretty happy to pilot. And an Urgot.
Wow. Okay. We knew that in terms of who was a top laner that really knew a lot of top lane picks, Oxymoron did know a lot more, and so this is a pretty aggressive pickup. It should be noted that this draft was done at lightning speed because this was a pre-done draft. We're not talking too much about the order at which you take things just because it doesn't really matter in this situation. They'd already done the draft. But Urgot in the top lane. That's aggressive. It's pretty bad into the Shen, though, if the Shen is able to dance around that Spirit's Refuge effectively.
Yeah, I do know that Urgot's sort of dash does take priority over Shen's taunt, but even then, a lot of the damage is blocked right by the Spirit's Refuge. And the other thing I'd like to mention is that I love Sedge, but Sedge only has one melee here, right? Only has one melee to really handle that passive out to people. Like, it's going to be difficult really to get those stuns onto the Jinx, for example. If the Jinx takes cleanse, how are you going to be shutting her down? What do you prefer here? What draft would you prefer to be playing?
I think in terms of just standard, everything works in this draft. I quite like Supersoft Sharks. I think that it makes a lot of sense with what you're trying to do. You're trying to look for a couple of picks because you have a lot of single target damage and you're pretty easy to protect with that Lulu. Over on the side of Starlight, though, the Scion's going to want to go flying in. The Shen's going to follow, and that's going to be a lot of backline access very quickly. I think Starlight, their composition could work a lot better than Supersoft Sharks, but you need to play it very effectively. You need to play around the carries so carefully. And if you lose out on these individual lane matchups, I don't see getting back into this game being particularly easy. The Jinx gives you a lot of scaling priority, though, and Scion will just keep getting bigger and tankier. What did we say? Scion versus Ahri matchup? That's
Let's get. I don't even know
We
if there's
talked
any
about
data
it.
on that. I was going to say there's any data actually on it at all, but it's a
It
matchup
should
that
go Ari favored in the early game just because Sion's going to take a lot of poke damage off of the Ari. But later on into the game, and especially in team fights, I don't love Ari as a team fight champion. Has a lot of issues with actually finding the angles in a team fight. Very slippery, but a little bit of a slow assassin, and so just a bit annoying to chase around rather than able to actually blow somebody up usually.
and there's the sort of the I was just saying about protecting the ADC here, the Lulu. Vayne versus 2 tanks is going to be, this Sion could potentially have a really hard time if once it goes past 15, 20 minutes, they start grouping up. He's going to struggle to even put too much damage down. Vayne's going to absolutely shred him.
Yeah.
Blade is still, I know you don't always go Blade on Vayne, but Blade is still as good as it ever was. It's not been changed on this patch. And stuff like the health stacking you see from maybe that, not Leviathan, that's the Ornn upgrade, from the Heartsteel. It's going to be difficult here for the Sun maybe to actually get tanky enough to deal with the Vayne. And then Shen, yeah, he can block autos, but he's still a tank. I
He's
personally,
blocking a few autos, but outside of that Spirit's Refuge, and I think that's going to be the thing. If Juniper places that Spirit's Refuge effectively, you can lock the Vayne out of a fight, but that requires your Shen getting on top of the Vayne to be able to do that. And if your Shen is in the backline alone, that could be a big problem because Ari doesn't care about if you've blocked auto attacks because it's all spell damage.
Yeah, and then you can often see here if they do play this aggressive with this Sion and the Shen, and if the Super Soft Sharks can absorb that pressure, Vayne can run you down so easily with Lulu speed, with that Night Hunter passive. Ari can start getting those resets and start running you down as well. Yeah, her team fighting isn't the best, but just Charm alone could easily, if that catches on to Jinx, she doesn't have, say, Cleanse, she's dead. She's just going to be removed. So
absolutely,
it's going to be really hard here, I think, for Starlight to end up playing these team fights as the game goes on. Maybe they're going to sort of have a difficulty with the sort of spacing. They might have a tank frontline, but so far ahead of them and not that much damage to follow up.
It's going to be a really interesting one. In these individual lane matchups, is there anything you're looking at that's going to be exceptionally explosive? I mean, this Shen versus Urgot matchup could result in some solo kills, but I'm not exactly looking for that to happen. This bot lane, again, could be explosive, but Jinx, late game-ish. If your Vayne gets ahead, that could be the start of things. I mean, I'm watching the bot lane in case they get some kills, but that's not necessarily where I'm expecting there to be solo kills. But then again, in the mid lane, is the Ari going to solo kill the Sion? I mean, maybe?
And then you look at like the jungle matchup, right? It's not something that you sit there and go, Lilia can farm obviously incredibly quickly, just remove those camps off the map. There's obviously the jungle changes coming in. But we'll have to see if the junglers can actually affect this game, because that is the sort of where this game, I think, often lies, because you would say most of the lanes are pretty even, pretty slow. You know, Shen shouldn't be dying to Urgot unless there's a bit of a mistake, because he should just play very safe. Sion Ari shouldn't be too many kills in that lane either. And in bot lane, they should play safe early. I think jungle is where we're going to have to look at it in this game and go,
Gonna have to be.
maybe.
But if you're relying on your Lilia to make things happen in the early game, that's not gonna happen.
Yeah.
That's no, actually. No, that's not where that's gonna happen. And so vice versa.
Yeah. I gotta
do something.
Yeah.
Otherwise, Otherwise, where is the action?
We'll have to see as well with the changes in jungle, with the increased health on the camps and your increased damage on your side camps, whether Lilia is still able to counter jungle, say that effectively, because she does farm incredibly quickly. But I'm interested to see how the sort of breakpoints have occurred, whether she still is able to take those camps away just as fast as she was before. And if that's the case, you are going to have to do something early here on this edge pick, because Lilia could easily lap you, and Lilia's going to be a pain to deal with. Yes, there's Vayne, but if she gets a couple decent sleeps, it's going to be so hard, right? It's going to be so difficult to actually team fight if you've slept all the time. You're having a little bit of a nap.
Yeah, the nap could be incredibly impactful, but it always is. If you get a multi-man sleep, that's when things can just go entirely in your favor. I'm really interested to see if it's actually going to result in as bloody an early game as you asked for. I'm slightly worried that you might have jinxed things by asking for a bloody early game, if instead we're just going to end up with absolutely nothing happening.
Yeah, well, caster curses are always so prevalent, it seems to be, in university esports. You say one thing, you say, oh, I love this team composition, and suddenly it seems to fall apart at the seams. I do believe soon we are going to be getting into game. Hopefully we're going to be able to see if what we're sort of theory crafting here can actually be actualized in the game. And I mean, overall, we've been saying we do prefer the draft coming out here from the Sharks but there's still a chance, right? Starlight themselves, they're gonna have a few chances with this Jinx hyper carry, and we're just seeing a nice little line of scrimmage coming out here from Starlight. Nothing exciting. No invades. No invades.
And like I said, I expected things to be a little bit further back, a little bit more calm and collected during this early game, and that's exactly what this seems to be starting with. We can see our first little view of one of the jungle monsters, and it's adorable.
Well, they've put Pokemon in League of Legends. It's just two fan bases collide. I mean, what more could you want? They looked at the release of the new Pokemon game, and they're going, well, we got to get a piece of that, don't we? We got to add them to the game. We get some evolutions coming in, and we do see them ended up picking up. We see the Moss Stomper, the green smite coming out for Lilia, and we do end up seeing the Gustwalker smite, the blue smite coming out for Sejuani. I'm actually a little bit surprised that we're seeing the movement speed sort of style smite coming out for Sedge, but I'm not surprised by the tenacity coming out for that Lilia.
No, tenacity is excellent on Lilia. She wants to run around at supersonic speeds, and if she gets slowed, that can kind of ruin a Lilia's entire game. We're going to see both of these junglers start down towards the bottom side, and so they will be pathing up towards top side. That is pretty interesting considering the top lane was not a matchup where we expected there to be too much individual action, but both the Shen and the Urgot have enough CC and gank setup that it could be explosive once the junglers get there. As Firefoxer, you need to be clearing exceptionally quickly, otherwise you will fall behind. A Lilia should fall behind inevitably if the Lilia is clearing effectively, and so we'll see if Tenchi's actually able to use the champion to full strength and begin to just outstrip that Sejuani.
Yeah, and with Sedge, you were saying, it's odd that they're going towards this top lane matchup. But if you think about it, if they get this Urgot in the lead, right, Shen might have a very difficult time on side lane, and you've already got that late game scaling with the Vayne. If Urgot's just hammering you in top side, you're going to be sort of limited in the plays you can make here coming out of Starlight. So I'm not that surprised that we are sort of seeing this pathing from the Sedge. And it could also be, with the jungle changes, maybe they're just feeling, okay, we'll just take a leash from our bot lane and we'll just play about as safe as we can. We'll just play as standard as we can. Because we don't really know what is exceptionally strong on this patch, right? It's difficult, I think, for them to really assess what they want to be doing. We just see, it's just going to be what we were saying, very boring, sort of, not boring, but just standard in the top lane. Nothing really exciting happening. Shen isn't going to look to feed. Sion in the mid lane is pushing in this Ahri. He should get this push early. And maybe he can use this to maybe take away a few camps or maybe threaten the life of Sedge.
Now you can see a little roam up here from Zoe just to check where Firefoxer is. Should know exactly where they are. Just come off of the chickens, has now gone towards the red buff. Is being outstripped by the Lilia now by about a camp worth of time, but only just at this point. And for the minute, they're actually going to get towards the top lane at a relatively similar time. Oxymora needs to be careful, is pushing quite far forwards. Lilia, though, pre-6, pretty weak, doesn't have any CC setup. Instead, it should just be a Scuttle Crab take for the Lilia. And over on the other side, Firefoxer is just going to have to try to get to the bottom one if they can, but it might end up being a double Scuttle start.
Yeah, double Scuttle start for Lilia. I mean, we were saying how fast she could accelerate this game as Firefoxer is here and is a bit low, but just like ships the light, they just pass each other. Actually, this bot lane matchup as well, you see this Lulu pushing in. Lulu is someone that is quite good at pushing in early wave, and it's going to give you priority. Oh no, Oxymoron, are you going to get caught out here? Nope, never mind. He's just chilling. He's just having a good little time warding, seeing if Lilia was coming back for a gank, and nothing seems to be happening at the moment. No little fights in the top lane.
It's fine. We're all good. And actually, so far things have been very chill. Charlie Bean has ended up spending way too much time up in this top lane and now has conceded position, but Firefoxer needs to be careful.
And just dashes straight out. Conceding this crab, going to get double scuttles here, this Sejuani, and she's going to find it harder to, as the game goes on, keep up in farm, be able to actually, outpace this Lilia is impossible on the Sedge. So she's going to have to be really careful, right? She's going to have to try and make stuff happen, as we were saying early on. It's a nice little trade in top lane onto that Shen. But again, it's Shen. He's not going to worry too much. He's just going to look to farm. Wave is pushing into him. He's not going to look for any trades back. And just a very slow early game coming out here in the first
And we were expecting that. A lot of these champions are hyper-reliant on their ultimates. The bot lane is kind of the only place where the ultimates are not the be-all and end-all, but in the jungle, both of these ultimates are huge. In the top lane, both the ultimates are huge. I guess Ahri doesn't particularly care, but this is a gank coming out of the Sedge pre-6, no Glacial Prison to come through, and so you could just kind of walk it out.
And again, it seems to be Firefoxer trying as hard as they can to make stuff happen. And it's just not working as Lilia is invaded. She is a level up here. But again,
they just
will be
stare at each other and walk off.
They just walk off. But this is, you say, not in the favor of the Sejuani, right? This Lilia is going to outpace you, so they need to
massively.
Be careful.
Look at the CS difference.
It's just...
There is a 14 CS difference already. That's a good couple of camps. That's the Scuttle Crab difference right there, and it is going to be a Chemtech Soul. They removed it at the beginning of last year, and now it's back again, this time with some reasonable buffs. And actually, picking up the individual buffs from this Chemtech Drake, if you haven't read the patch notes yet, that's going to be 5% tenacity and 5% heal and shield power. Both of these teams would like that a lot, because you've got those enchanters in the bot lane who would like some heal and shield power, and tenacity on all the rest. Going to be excellent, especially, with your big tanky Shen Scion. You'd love some extra tenacity to be able to just continue walking into the backline and disrupting the opposition carries.
And it would be, for this Lilia, getting that tenacity from her smite, then getting the tenacity from the dragon. Suddenly you're not looking at, oh no, I might have to go Mercury Treads this game. You can just go full damage, as she's already managed to pick up that lost chapter compared to the Crystalline Bracer of the Sedge and a nice little Ruby Crystal. And she is outpacing the jungle so fast. Again, with that tenacity, she can go Sork Shield. She can look towards maybe going to a more high damage build, which you would say this Lilia in a composition like this is going to end up being one of the sort of major carries, right? Scion not necessarily going to be able to do that much damage in team fights versus something like a Vayne who's going to shred him. So we're looking at the jungle of Starlight as sort of that sort of pivotal member of the team that could make things happen. As just trades in mid lane, and again, just a nice little quiet little bot lane. Nothing particularly exciting, just farming it up. And overall, there is a huge CS difference, though, in the mid lane.
Yeah, the CS differences are kind of the big stars of the show right now, because the actual kill scores, I think, is going to stay relatively the same until we see sixes come through properly. If you take a look at CS leads, though, in the top lane, a small CS lead for Oxymoron, but the jungle and the mid lane is where it's really at. An absolutely gigantic CS lead, but they are both in the favor of the Starlight members, which is huge.
And the Oxymoron here is trying to go for that
it's
damage
6.
onto the Lilia. Lilia is 6, but...
It's it!
That's huge. That's massive coming out from the Urgot. That's an absolute just destruction of the Lilia. This was the player we said, okay, Lilia, she's got to make things happen. She's got to try and, be the carry on this team, right? She's got to be one of the major damage sources. And messes up the dive, messes up the gank. Ult comes through from the Scion, flash from the Ahri, and that's just an overstep coming out there from the Starlight jungle, and the top laner didn't really end up having an impact.
No, instead it was a very nice, clean, easy kill, and that's now a big CS lead right here for Supersoft Shark's top laner, and it just was not a clean gank. I said things were going to get explosive once level 6s were hit, but not necessarily for the team I thought it was going to be explosive for. But now these junglers do both have level 6s, I think things are going to get a little bit more interesting. Child of Bean is just hanging around this bot side, does have that ultimate.
Yeah, didn't use the Lilting Lullaby in the top lane to try and save their life. Has still got it for this bot lane fight if a fight does occur. Just still sitting in this bush waiting to see if the bot lane coming out from the Sharks is going to push up. Doesn't seem to be happening. Decides, I better go back into my jungle and farm.
Well, could go for this Drake. It has the ability because the mid lane has been pushed in so far, but their because their bot lane has pushed in so far, but Zoe had just gone back, so instead going to go through, try to steal away some enemy camps. This is exactly what you want to be doing on the Lilia. The only thing is, though, is that Firefosa is around, is spotted out on a ward, but might be able to cut off Char the Bean if they're not careful.
Are they even aware of what this Lilia is doing? Because obviously the bot lane from the Sharks are aware where Sedge is, so the gank not going to come through. They'd have to go for some sort of dive. Lilia is available, and there are 6s on every member of the bottom jungle. Firefosa just dashes out there. Arctic Assault's in the wrong direction.
And the fight breaks out. The members of Starlight can get here much, much quicker.
Oh no, Glacial Prison goes wide from the Sejuani, and
that could go. There we go, Lilting Lullaby.
We're having a fight. A fight is occurring. Vayne has popped the ultimate, and that's it. And there's nothing else.
Dan, that was the fight. Congratulations, guys. That was every bit of action we're actually allowed for this game. I thank you all very much for tuning in, and have a good evening.
Were you excited though? You see this little Lullaby come down on Sedge, you think maybe they're extended, but they are so scared also of running into this Vayne, right? There is Lulu shielding and speed available. And if Vayne starts getting a couple kills in this game, it will be very difficult for the 2 tanks on the side of Starlight to do anything, as we just see the Lilia just picking up the dragon. They're all grouping up for it. This is going to be given over. And that's the tenacity going onto the team that, with the Lilia, really, really loves it.
This is an exceptionally good Drake to be picking up. The tenacity, beautiful, the heal and shield power onto your Sona as well. Going to be huge. And I think something we... Oh, never mind. Possible gank. Hits!
Possible gank does hit, but Ari is just going to ult her way out of there. And there's... And that's all she wrote.
It's a decent little gank. You get the ultimate out, you get the ignite out. Dreamy Luna is forced to run away. And so you can see the idea behind it. But without that lilting lullaby, there was... not a high possibility of that gank actually coming to success. What I was going to say right beforehand was, but something we haven't touched on quite enough, is that Starlight can get to plays way quicker. Your Sion can ultimate in with that unstoppable onslaught, and then Shen has that Shadow Dash, has that Twilight to just come flying in to join you much quicker than really would be expected. Stand United is a great ability to be able to save somebody's life. And if you're able to rotate to plays faster, that could be exceptionally strong during those late game team fights.
And exactly right. If you are able to be the first to the play, and with something like a Jinx who can put out so much damage, having the healing and shielding coming out from the Sona, having that shielding coming out from the Shen, might mean you can turn fights. You can actually look for plays far more aggressive. And we were saying, you know, before Champ Set, we were saying aggression. If you can play aggressive, people often aren't too aware of, you know, are they being aggressive because they know what they're doing? Are they being aggressive? Can we win this? And if you are able to make those aggressive plays with this Shen and with this Sion, it could pay up dividends. But again, it seems to be just stable gameplay. The Lilia, unfortunately, being the only member to have fallen in this game from either team. But the Dragon
that doesn't seem to have affected them too badly. Yeah, they picked themselves up the Drake. They're still up by about 30 CS in this game. That's a huge CS lead. And it's going to begin to translate into items pretty quickly. And once that point comes, it's going to be incredibly scary to be the opposition. Currently, only a couple of items have been completed, but who got the earliest kill and who has the biggest CS lead currently have those first items started.
Well, we did just see there a nice little flash burn on the Vayne in the bot lane. She has no summoners. If there was a a Lilia rather around, they could maybe force a dive, but again, they're just going to get a couple plates. There is a Sedge around, but this Vayne probably not going to be punished for that. I will mention she has obviously gone for that Ghost Flash, and in a game like this, I'm surprised we don't see a cleanse, because there's a Sonar ult, which if the Vayne does get locked up, she's going to be murdered. There's a Sleep coming out from Lilia. There's taunts. There's obviously knockups. Don't really help you too much with that Sion, but we have to see if this Vayne can glide her way around a fight with this Ghost, as opposed to just be locked up, CC'd, and taken out of the game.
It's a very aggressive summoner spell choice right there, but I like it quite a lot, actually. It gives you the ability to run through your fights very quickly, and if you trust your positioning enough to not get caught out by the CC, then you should still be fine. So we're looking for Firefosa right here, and Firefosa kind of just looking to pick up the scraps of whatever is left in their jungle. I don't know how many of their own chicken camp they've actually picked up, because Charlabini has just taken away almost every single one. As we say that, here we go, the deer wanders in, and look how nauseatingly quickly a Lilia can clear a camp. Just so very fast. Possible gank, though.
Possible gank coming in here from the Sejuani. The Glacial Prison is available. Is it going to land onto the Jinx?
Hits!
It does. The Cliff is used, but Shen Stan United comes out. Vayne is locked up, and she's going to fall. She's so close. She finally drops. That's a 1-for-0 in favor of Starlight.
Dreamy Luna.
Here comes the Ari, and are they just going to walk it off? She's trying so hard to get this kill onto the Jinx. She does. Finally, Spirit rushes away. 1-for-1. Both ADCs full. And overall, we're saying Firefosa had to make something happen early. It is 14 minutes into the game, but they finally managed to make a play.
There we go. That was a very nice little gank right there, and using the abilities perfectly, but the response is going to be that Herald being dropped down in this mid lane. All of the turret plates are going to go over to Starlight, and that's a massive injection of gold into your main carry, Lilia, who's currently running the map in terms of just pure gold. The CS lead in the mid lane, though, is absolutely ridiculous, and now a turretless Ahri has a little bit of an easier time to just sit back and farm at the tier 2, but a much harder time to rotate to these objectives like you want to as an Ahri. Ahri has such a mobile kit that if she's not able to use it, if she's just trying to pick up the scraps of CS, she's 60 CS behind.
She is so far behind in this game on a pick. You know, we said they wanted to play this Ahri, it isn't necessarily coming up versus the Scion in the same way as you'd expect, especially in a range versus melee matchup. And I also wish they're using that TP from Shen. They don't have it for this next dragon fight. 20 seconds on this dragon spawn. It's coming up so soon. No Stan United, no Shen TP. And on the other side, well, Urgot isn't even going to bother using it because he's walking straight down there.
And this is what you like to see. This Shen is going to have to book it all the way down to this Drake if they want it. But I think actually Starlight is just going to concede that this is not their Drake. It means they're going to be evened up 1 apiece. Everybody is coming down, but by the time that the members of Starlight get here, it should just be gone.
It should just be taken off the map. Scion is going to ult in, Unstoppable Onslaught lands onto 3, gets a huge
nice knockback.
Lulu. And there's just ults flying across the map. This is going to be a Scion falling. There is a Vayne just hammering him down. Passiveful, maybe he can try and pick up a kill. Three-man Lilting Lullaby comes out from the Lilia. That is 1 kill picked up onto the Ahri. So 1 apiece so far. Oxymoron is dropping so low. They've got to try and walk this out. They've got to get out as soon as they can. Polymorph onto Char the Bean. And again, another 1-for-1. This time, both mid laners full.
It was a nice attempt at disruption out of Zoe, but a little bit over-aggressive, you have to say. Picking up a kill and a tower in response for the play is quite nice out of Starlight, but still, Super Soft Sharks are keeping themselves in touching distance of this game. It was a nice play on a big reset out of Starlight. A little bit of wonky reset timers, giving an opportunity over to the Sharks to pick up that Drake, but still, the Sharks are down about 3k gold, despite the fact that they've had some nice plays here and there. The CS leads are just disgusting.
And we are now seeing, you know, the item completions coming through. We're seeing that shield bar on the Vayne, the heart steal on the Sejuani. Be interesting to see how that can function in the game. You do, obviously, it's a 30-second cooldown for a rather powerful auto attack. You see the Leandries on the Lilia. You see the Kraken Slayer on the Jinx. But more interesting to me, new tank item is the Iceborne Gauntlet coming out on the Scion. Be interesting to see how that works because it is now a Sheen item.
It is indeed, which is not usually what you'd expect. You know, big tanky items, they do sometimes come with Sheens, but it means it's going to work very well with the Scion. Going to deal a lot of extra damage if you can hit one of those big smashes, but if you can't, I mean, you're not going to be quite as tanky as previously with this item.
Yeah, and it's interesting, he hasn't gone for one of the sort of tankier items, maybe that Heart Steel, maybe that Jack Show. Going towards the more damage-orientated. He did survive for so long there. He doesn't manage to get out over the blast cone. Luna has got the Spirit's Rush. He has got the charm. It does go wide. Glacial Prison does land on Sun. He's so tanky, though. He's just going to Unstoppable Onslaught out of there. He calls people cowards, but he's the one running away. And ends up being nothing. Nothing picked up onto the Scion, but he is so tanky. It would have taken years.
We're about 20 minutes into this game, and 5 kills have gone down. Exactly the opposite of what you asked for during the beginning of the game. Bloody it has not been. Possibly a pick here onto Dreamy Luna, though.
The charm does end up going wide, and Juniper is here to cover any kind of play. Again, ships to the night. We're seeing a lot of what we were hoping for bloods, we were hoping for fights, and they seem to be a little bit more passive, a little bit maybe scared of making a play in this game. We'll have to see if going forward they do try. With the Glacial Prisons coming out from the Sedge, there's always a chance.
If you are Starlight, why would you pick a fight right now? In the individual lane matchups, you are smashing your opponents into the ground. You're up 30 CS, you're up 80 CS, you're up 20 CS. In every matchup, you're in a position where actually sitting in these lanes and just applying the pressure is working for you. Eventually, that will stop working because you're beginning to take these outer turrets down. 2 of the 3 have gone down already. It's just that top lane remaining, and so you switch your bot lane up there, just keep feeding the Jinx. But why would you change anything right now? As Starlight, the onus is not on them to make things happen. Right now, it's firmly on Super Soft Sharks to actually get things done.
And look at Zoe here, so tanky. The Vayne, yes, doing a bit of damage, but look how much damage is returned. And the ult comes through from the Sona, does lock up. The beans dropped. And that's going to be another kill going over to the Scion in the form of the Lulu dropping. What? There's just so much damage coming through the Scion, and Charlotte B is running through them. Zoe, she doesn't care. She doesn't actually care about any of your damage. Doesn't care about any of your CC. Just eviscerates the Sharks in the jungle.
And I thought that that might be a pick. Zoe looked like they were walking way too aggressive up. Instead, comes out of that fight about as healthy as they went in. And this is what you can do with that brand new Iceborne Gauntlet. Just gives you the ability to deal a ton of extra damage, and it shifts a lot of your power into armor rather than the magic resist instead, meaning that you are going to take basically no damage from Oxymoron or from What the Beans, and so a lot of the big threats right now just aren't touching you. Dreamy Luna is so far behind, they haven't even completed their first item, and so the fact that the Iceborne Gauntlet doesn't give you any magic resist doesn't matter. It does not matter one bit in this game.
And you're just saying, Ari so far behind, not the damage available. This Scion already has shown just how tanky they can be with this. The damage that coming through is just not going to be enough, and they're only going to get tankier this game. It's only be a case of where is Scion just going to run through your entire team. We'll have to see. As we are seeing this dragon spawn, and it's an Infernal Drake. Wait, no, the Spectator as well. It is a Hextech Dragon.
Oh, we like to see a Hextech Dragon. Gives you a lot of good stats with that ability. Hey, Scion on the back line.
Scion on the back line. Is he going to be able to pick anything else here? What the Beans has caught out Zoe. I mean, Zoe's so tanky, but there's going to be a Vayne hammering down on her.
She gets away.
Onslaught away, but
she gets away.
They're getting the dragon. They're getting the dragon. Scion, yes, he's low, but Scion is.
Zoe's in the back line.
He's trying so hard. What the Beans is something. There's a massive amounts of damage coming out from Starlight. Zoe's keeping the Vayne completely locked up, and it's just a complete team wipe. I mean, on the backside, what it means is trying to get the kills, trying to stop the Scion from running through them. It doesn't end up mattering. It's just wombo combo removed. Sharks is wiped off the map.
Oh my god. That crescendo was beautiful. Every part of that, the amount of people put to sleep by Chart the Bean just there was ridiculous. And what a set of plays that was. A massive swing. The game was already pretty firmly in the grasps of Starlight, but right now, with themselves a Baron, with themselves that Drake, they're going to be able to push forwards, crack the base. Not going to be able to push all the way for these for these inhibitors yet, but that's likely because everybody has about 3k, 4k of gold in their back pockets that they need to put into the bank before they can push forwards and just take this game.
And I mean, right now, if you are the Sharks, it's do or die. You've got to make some real desperation plays here. If you are Firefox moving forward, they've got to try and catch someone here because if this reset comes through, the gold difference is just going to be too much. Juniper potentially caught out here, does get locked up by the stuns from the CC from Sedge. Maybe the Shen will eventually fall. Taunts away. Too tanky as well. They can't pick up anyone.
Too tanky. With this Sheen build Gauntlet now, it's such a good item for Shen. You can see how tanky he is as well. And once again, your Ari is so far behind that Luna's Echo only just being built for Dreamy Luna. It means that in this situation, you don't care about building any form of magic resist. You can just fully itemize into tank items, into full armor. And it means that the people who are actually dealing damage on Super Soft Sharks just aren't able to.
Again, as the game goes on, we were saying Vayne is going to be able to shred these tanks. Are they even going to reach that point? Is Vayne even going to reach the point of being able to deal with Zoe, deal with Juniper on these tanky boys? Shen and Scion. Unlikely, you'd say. The Baron going over, all the damage they managed to put down that fight, the huge crescendo. And now with the base open, yes, no inhibitor down. One more fight in the favor of Starlight, and you'd imagine it'd be game over, as Charlie Bean has managed to land a little bit of damage.
But Charlie Bean doesn't want a one-man sleep. Charlie Bean knows what can happen when you get a multi-man sleep now, and that previous team fight, absolutely ridiculous. Definitely going to be looking for one of those. If we take a look in at the way that the game is right now, that's a 10k gold lead. That's a full 10k gold lead for Starlight. They are up 2 to 3 items. About 2 items completed, working on the thirds, whereas over on the side of the Sharks, they are just about scraping together enough money to come towards their second items. Nobody has that 2-item mark yet, and so just so far behind in terms of gold, as such in terms of items, and they're beginning to bleed objectives. 6 towers to 1, 2 drakes to 1, a Baron already going down in just 20 minutes, and this game is feeling more and more out of the control of Super Soft Sharks.
As we see here, they're catching out Dreamy Luna. The Spirit Rush is available, but just locked up and just destroyed. The taunt coming through. No Ari on the map. Dragon, it's still a minute 30, so not too many objectives, but they can just try and push into the base. They are up. Remember,
why not? You are in such commanding control of this game. You might as well just keep trying to push. You don't want to push out too far, though. The ability to make a catch on a single target from Super Soft Sharks is very strong. But when they are moving as a unit, you have such a good tank frontline right now. Your Scion is doing incredibly well. This Scion currently acting more like an assassin than an actual tank with the amount of damage that Zoe is able to lay down.
And this was a Scion that was picked first. This Scion, B1 Scion, and you had all of the time in the world, you had that Vayne answer, and it's just not turned up in this game. It seems to be this Scion. Maybe next game, depending on how this outcome is, you go, this Scion has been such a pain. Being able to shove in mid and just play so aggressive around the map, be so tanky in multiple fights. Might have to get rid of it, get it off the board in the next game. Zoe's just had, honestly, a standout performance this game. Insane.
And we said that it might end up being the Scion versus Ahri matchup in this mid lane, just because that was kind of the picks that you expected to see. But this is a best of 3. Surely, if you're the side of the Sharks, you're like, yeah, we don't want to deal with this Scion. Absolutely not. Maybe the Lilia comes off the board too. Maybe even the Jinx. And so what else does Zoe actually have to show us? Be interesting to see coming into the next game, because in this game, like you've said, a standout performance. Truly MVP worthy, I'd say.
And the charm does land onto Charlie. Bean does get out. Juniper gets locked up by the glacial prison.
Firefosa?
Taunts forward. Firefosa's just caught in no man's land. Rooted by the Jinx traps. That's one dead. Sejuani.
One drowsy.
Onto the Vayne. Does have to flash away. Does have to cleanse it. Has had to go that Mercurial. Well, the QSS so early in this game, losing so much damage on that Vayne, but does escape with their life.
And now you can turn back around and go towards this Drake, because, Zoe.
Oh, Zoe's just trying to pick up Oxymoron there. It's eventually going to be melted by this Vayne, but they do end up picking the Dragon in response. Zoe trades their life, and this is going to be sole point for the side of Starlight.
Sole point already, and Zoe was just playing for time and nearly managed to pick themselves up a kill onto Oxymoron. And look at this, a straight shot over towards the Baron, because what can your opposition do? They have minions pouring into their base, no inhibitors down yet, so a little bit slower of a response. Vision is available, so you're going to end up with a 5-man response. It will end up being a 5 versus 4. Zoe has no teleport to join this fight, but the Baron is so nearly gone.
And Dreamy Luna is so far forward. The Baron does get taken. Charm lands onto Char, the Bean.
Flash away.
And nothing else. Baron goes over cleanly over to the side of Starlight.
I don't know if Bean needed to flash right there, but I can understand the reasoning. You've just picked up the Baron. You don't want to die. You've got Charmed. Why not? And the Lilia flash, to be honest, isn't the main draw of Lilia. She's usually fast enough that the flash doesn't really mean anything anyway. It's a nice catch. It was a good charm right there out of Dreamy Luna in a game that's been a little bit rough for them. And so I can understand why you would want to make a play like that, but small wins right now. Small wins. Getting that flash means that that's one less engaged tool, one more person you might actually be able to get on top of and try to kill, because the Jinx with flash cleanse up, you're probably not killing her. The Sona has that crescendo, and the other two are massive tanks. All of a sudden, Charlevine is probably your best guess at who you can actually try to take out. We should now see a 1-4 split. Zoe burn themselves on the other side of the map. Massive tanky has teleport, and 4 members up towards the top side. You're going to need to send a couple to deal with Zoe, so this push top side should be very effective.
And with Zoe, the only person that can really deal with them is this Vayne. Vayne is going to have to be required to deal with this silent split push with the 4 members pushing in top lane. Oxymoron is trying their absolute damnedest, but they're not going to be able to defend the base. And Sion is going to onslaught away.
She's gone!
She's out of there. They're going to keep chasing, but they end up having to back, because look at their base. It's just going to be in tatters if they don't return.
This is sad.
Sad to watch. I mean, they are being able to get a bit of wave clear coming out from Dreamy Luna. Oxymoron is trying their best. Does get taken very, very low. We'll have to go back to base soon as the damage going through from the Lilia, the damage from the Jinx. That's the Jinx rocket. That's the kill for Archie Tensi. And the base is being broken again, this time in top lane. But with everyone available, with the Sion pushing bot, they're going to have to force a fight soon here, the Sharks, or else they're just going to be out macroed.
Where do you force the fight, though?
Exactly. It's impossible almost. It's an impossible task. It's a prisoner's dilemma. It's not going to happen. As Dreamy Luna goes forward,
oh no!
By Juniper, that's going to be the kill onto the Jinx.
6-1-4. Jinx.
Going to have to try and see if they can pick anything else.
Flash.
They do end up picking up Vayne. QSS doesn't matter. The Lulu is dropping so low. Flash forward. That's going to be the godlike for the Jinx to the side of Starlight. Firefoss are trying their absolute best.
Look at that shield!
United. It's huge because of the MP. And this is going to be the gaming end here. There's just, again, sort of slowly bleeding. Not be able to force a fight. Oxymoron will have to try their damnedest here to actually get anything to happen. The turrets are falling. And that's going to be game one going over to the side of Starlight, you'd imagine. In what was started very, very slow, but sort of exploded with Zoe just making play after play.
What a game. It was so slow. That's the only reason that this game ended up at about 30 minutes in length, because the early game was so very slow. And if you just come into League of Legends games and you take a look at the kill score, and that's all you look at, you'd think these teams are pretty even. But the real game was happening in the CS leads. The masterful wave management of the Starlight members meant that their opposition were just choked out of any available gold. And that's what won them the game. Every team fight they entered, they were one, so by the end of the game, 2 items up on their opponents. And during the early game, 1 or 2 components more than what your opposition have is everything. Every fight, you just had that little bit more CS, that little bit more gold, and it translated into one team fight after one team fight, and it didn't even feel close.
And they didn't really manage to punish Juniper playing in an off role anyway. We'll have to see in the next game with Draft. Does that Scion go? Is the Ari getting through? Are we going to be playing Vayne again? We'll have to see where it goes. We're going to go to a quick break. We'll be back for game 2 to see if Starlight can continue their dominance or the Super Soft Sharks can bring it back for a game 3. Catch you in a sec.
I live 17 floors up, and when it rains I can feel those drops in my window pane. Lets me know that I'm still here. But when the sun comes out I will go outside. When it breaks through clouds I will give a smile. Lets me know that I'm still here. Sometimes I want to run away, to find good times again, to find all my old friends. Times I said good times, find my friends again. I said I wanna have good times, good times, find my friends again, and good times. I said good times, find my friends again. I said I wanna have good times, good times, find my friends again, and up, and when I cry I can see the city through my watered eyes. Lets me know that I'm still here. When my eyes clear up I will go outside. I'll imagine you're still by my side. Lets me know that I'm still here. Sometimes I want to run away, to find good times again, to find all my old friends. Run away, to the nearest place where I'll find all my old friends. Times I said good times, find my friends again. I said I wanna have good times, good times, find my friends again, and good times. I said good times, find my friends again. I said I wanna have good times, good times, find my friends again, and find my friends again. I said I wanna have good times, good times, find my friends again, and good times. I said good times, find my friends again. I said I wanna have good times, good times, find my friends again.
And welcome back to game 2 of this best of 3 between Starlight and Supersoft Sharks in the women and non-binary League of Legends semi-finals. After that first game, Bloxer, what are we expecting coming into this second game?
The Scion. Not necessarily because the Scion performance was the performance that meant that the team won. Starlight were good across the board. Their ability to command minion waves, their ability to push those leads and use those item advantages to their advantage during team fights was excellent. But the Scion is the main pick, kind of the one-trick pick of Zoe, and you could see it. You could see how well they were playing. There was a point where they were up 80 CS. That is a truly ridiculous total. And clearly, in this matchup, the kind of main matchup we were looking at between Luna and Zoe with that Scion versus Ahri, it's clearly Scion favored. With these two players in this specific matchup, I don't think you can keep that Scion on the board. And so I think that is the main starting point. But overall, the map rotation needs to be cleaner. The jungle play, you allowed Ililia to just sit back and do whatever she wanted because the Sejuani was trying to keep up in terms of farm when Sejuani versus Ililia needs to gank, gank, gank.
And overall, it seemed just like a better performance, you'd almost say, across the board. Bot lane was so neutral, nothing really occurring. And then in the jungle, just a huge lead for Char Bean on that Lilia. Then even in top lane, we were saying, what is Juniper going to play? It's often a support player, brings out the Shen and kind of neutralizes that matchup.
Yeah.
And despite there being that early kill from the Urgot onto Lilia, just managed to stay pretty even. And then that Stan United is so strong in those team fights.
And was used really effectively. Plus, you get that chem tech, you get extra shield and heal power. You saw it right towards the end. Shen shielding somebody for basically half of their HP. It just changes the way that fights play. I really liked the Starlight composition. I enjoyed the way that every member could work together, and your Lilia so quick to move around the map. Your Scion with the teleport obviously can get there quickly, if not that unstoppable onslaught as well. And then the Stan United plus teleport combo on a Shen is also incredibly strong. Every play that happened, there were more members at that fight from Starlight than there were at Supersoft Sharks until later on in the game, where Starlight knew they could take that 4 versus 5 and didn't need to be the full 5.
And again, it's just seems to have been better macro knowledge as well. Being able to rotate, as you're saying, so much faster around that map. Getting to objectives will often seem to be first. Even the fights, the one dragon that ended up going over to the Sharks, Zoe came in, super tanky, got all of the teammates there. And that was it. It seemed to have been from that moment onwards, the game just sort of snowballed into Starlight's control. Nothing really else could happen. And you had the Vayne, you had a tank shredder, you had an ability to fight this Scion as the game went on. But you never got to that point. You had to go for that QSS as well because you were so concerned. We're saying, they go on this Ghost, it's a nice aggressive summer spell, but you had to cleanse the sleeps. You had to play in such a way that didn't really allow you to stop Zoe. Exactly. And I think
right there.
into this game, they're going to have to come up with something a little bit different. That Vayne is a favorite pick for What the Beans. And I don't think it was Vayne's fault this game at all. I think Vayne was dealt a really bad hand overall with how ahead that Scion was. So get rid of that Scion. Maybe look to see if you can, if they do pick up this RE, do you have an answer to it? Because maybe you as the Supersoft Sharks might not get that RE if they are obviously they're staying on the same sides this game. So Starlight might not go for the Scion, might go for the RE instead. Go see if you got an answer for that. And just overall, just see if you can manipulate draft in a way where you're going to be able to get a matchup in mid lane that probably doesn't fall so far behind.
I shouldn't have opened that link, but I have opened that link, and I've now seen the beginnings of the draft, and I'm really excited about what the Supersoft Sharks have drafted for themselves. I'm going to close this link now, because if I keep looking at it, I'm going to spoil it for you because I'm really excited for this. But let's just say the bot lane might be getting a little bit spicier, and we like that because the bot lane was incredibly neutral. It was the one place actually where the CS lead was bang on even during the early game until Jinx managed to pick up a couple kills in a big team fight, and then it was gone.
And exactly, and when you've got What the Beans was able to do a few things with this Vayne. There was moments where they were fighting this on, they could do stuff. You want to play like through strong lanes at some point. If you're going to play this Sejuani versus this Lilia, and you're going to go, okay, we're going to default to a more tanky jungler, you're going to have lanes to play around. And in this game, it didn't feel like Firefox had anywhere to really go. Didn't really have anywhere to really play through. Maybe if you go for a nice spicy bot lane, maybe look towards, I don't know. We know that they might go for something a bit more fighty. You've got the information now. I have no idea. I'm going to say, maybe a Tristana, maybe go towards an MF, maybe go for like a Lucian Nami, go for something that's really aggressive in bot lane, punish this Jinx and this Sona, which are both heavily scaling champions, and see if you can take the fight to Starlight and not enable them to get into the situations they seem to really prefer.
Yeah, Starlight had just control of the game from start to finish. They'd put themselves in the driver's seat about 10, 13 minutes into the game. So not right at the beginning, because nobody was really right at the beginning. But they were kind of silent assassins with those slow build of CS leads. You're so right, though. The bot lane is the one place where things didn't collapse in on themselves. And so right there, that's where you want to be starting. Hey, we can make this bot lane our battleground to play around. Give our jungler, give Firefosa somewhere to play through. Never gonna outfarm a Lilia. The fact that she tried is unfortunate and is kind of the reason why the Sejuani pick didn't look so good. Like you said, also the Sejuani pick didn't have many melee champions to play alongside. I think the whole team composition was just a little bit too skewed towards the second you lost that mid lane matchup and you didn't have the AP damage from Ahri. You just didn't have that mixed damage profile to be able to compete. The Ahri did no damage by herself. You could build armor and health versus the Vayne and the Urgot, and things just broke down. If you can make your mid lane matchup a little bit more stable too, or make your bot lane matchup win by itself, then you could be in a much stronger spot as the Supersoft Sharks.
And again, you've got to have a winning. You've got to have a win condition, and try and make sure. Like again, we're saying about Sedge not having many melees, and you need to have a very compositions at this level. And when you're playing in your university esports at any level in university esports, having a solid composition, having something, okay, we can play to this win condition, to these strengths is so important, because that way, even if you slightly fall behind in the game, you know how you're coming back into it. And it felt like in this game, they didn't really know how they wanted to play it, because you had the Sejuani going for glacial prisoning, but there wasn't the damage available there. Or, the Urgot pick, which we said weird, picks into Shen, yes, can interrupt that taunt, but the sort of Spirit's Refuge can deny a lot of damage from the Urgot. Gets the kill early and doesn't really end up doing much with it.
No.
You've got to be able to pick something that's very simple. Yes, for example, you banned out the Ornn. Maybe you don't ban out the Ornn. If you are on red side, take that. Don't ban it in second phase. Take it early on and give yourself maybe an easier team comp to play around. Because that seemed to be one side knew exactly what they wanted to do, and one side were a little bit skewed in what they wanted to do.
Do you want to keep the Sedge? Because I'm personally on team the Sedge wasn't the problem. The way it was played wasn't ideal, and there were no really good lanes to gank. And so I don't mind if the Sejuani comes back into this game. I just think you need more setup throughout the rest of your lanes. What's your thought on that?
I do generally agree. I think it might be hard to get sort of melee mid here, because with Dreamy Luna in mid lane, wants to play this Ahri, maybe this Lux as well. You're not going to be looking maybe for the melees there. if you are picking this Sedge, you are then going to have to fight around top side, around that sort of 2v2. So maybe take, again, the Urgot can stack that Sedge passive pretty quickly. I don't imagine you're going to be getting melees in support either. So play to your strengths of, yes, you should really be getting someone ahead. Maybe take a strong top matchup and a strong bot matchup and play through sides. Let Luna just play the Ahri again. Maybe the Lux gets through. Maybe another supporting mid laner like Seraphine, who, even if they fall behind, like, actually has impact on a game, I think. With the Moonstone build potentially from the Seraphine, or even with that Leandri's build, can still be so impactful despite being behind.
Seraphine is so strong in this patch. Just ridiculously strong, and has been for quite a while. If you hit an encore on multiple members that runs through your team and the opposition, you can truly change a fight. And that's the kind of thing that we saw out of the Sona Crescendo as well. The Crescendo has a little bit less range too, and so if you can hit that encore properly and effectively as a Seraphine, oh boy, you can do good things for your team. And I think that's what you need. You need that agency in the bot lane, because Lulu is a great pick at keeping someone alive, but the agency isn't there. You are reacting to the opposition's plays. If they jump in on your Lulu, or if they jump in on your Vayne, you protect them. If they are about to kill somebody, you polymorph the opposition. It's all about what they do to you rather than you actually making your own plays. And so I'd like to see something with a bit more proactivity for the Super Soft Sharks to allow them to have a bit more pace of their own in this game.
We'll have to see going into draft exactly what ends up being picked up here. We assume, as we're saying, ban Sion, just take it off the board. But we see the Camille ban coming through from Starlight, which is the opposite side now. The other team is now banning this Camille, and the same Janna ban as we saw before.
Yeah, I'm expecting a lot more of those Enchanter supports to come off of the board. If the Sion doesn't, I want a really strong answer. You expect that Vayne to be your big strong answer, but possibly not in this situation. We'll see what else is going to come off of the board. So far, things are looking pretty even. Like you said, the Camille ban, I think it makes a lot more sense being banned out by Starlight, considering Oxymoron plays quite so much of it.
And we see that Zyra ban. We know in the bot lane, we're in that support role there. Boxy Baby plays that Zyra. So that gets taken to the wall. The Lux in response as well. Is Sion not going to be banned? It feels to me like it has to be. Someone here spoiled themselves, so maybe they secretly know. But I think Sion here has to be gone. It has to be gone. It was so impactful.
Expect it to go. Yeah, there we go. We were expecting it to go off of the board. That was actually one of the picks I didn't spoil for myself. I spoiled the bot lane of Super Soft Sharks for myself. That's all I spoiled for myself before I closed the link, and so I'm really excited to see that one come through. Misfortune is a little bit of a different pickup, but here we go. This is what I had seen. It was the Samira lock-in, which I really like. We complained that things were a bit too complacent in the bot lane. That's aggressive.
That's spicy. And we see the Seraphine as well, which we were saying, Seraphine in mid lane, pick someone. You didn't go for this Ahri in the end. Go for someone who can facilitate the rest of your team. Seraphine as a champ, can actually play from behind. Has that anchor, has a lot of basic value there. As we only see.
And it's a flex pick.
So
could go support it pretty good with the Samira. It gives you that agency in the bottom lane. Over on the other side, though, Lulu being hovered right here. Lulu MF, that's again quite a passive bot lane that can then turn things around a little bit. Lulu on the opposite side of the board as well. There's the Nunu that we talked about before game 1. And so that's a jungler that has pretty decent clear speed, doesn't have a good time in the early game up against stronger junglers.
So as you said, we saw the Nunu actually get through here. You would assume one of the teams would have picked it up, given how much they loved it. The Nivea as well is able to sort of deal with that Nunu, funnily enough. If he comes snowballing in, puts the wall up, it's going to be very difficult for Nunu to actually get these sort of angles in to team fights. See, again, we've got a very similar scenario. Not quite the same as last time, but you see the mid laners, one mid laner being picked up here, and you imagine they're going to start banning towards Juniper in the top lane, just to put pressure in that role for someone who isn't a top lane main.
No, and who did perfectly well for themselves, had a very respectable game during the previous one. And so Shen coming off the board, that was a bit of comfort. You're also going to see a couple more top lane bans. Will we see any more focus onto the jungle right now? No. On off of the board as well. You questioned whether or not actually the Sharks should leave that one up and available. And Follybear, that's the same ban as happened last time around. Sejuani is going to be picked up. And actually, I like it here because the Glacial champions, all of those Freljordian champions, stack on top of each other really well. That's aggressive.
Silas
That's not a
through.
Sion. That's aggressive.
And it's maybe a little bit of confidence, right? After that last game, seeing how far ahead you got in that mid lane matchup, you take someone who can actually start forcing advantages in the Sylas. The Karma then being locked in as well. Everyone's speeding through. This could be a Sylas top, could be a Sylas mid, could be Karma top, Karma mid. And the Mordekaiser finally being picked up. Interesting to see the Mordekaiser actually this game, because someone like Sylas taking the Death Realm is very scary. And Sylas just has so many good ultimates this game.
Sylas is having an absolute field day with this. I don't think there's a single ultimate on the board that I wouldn't want. Actually, for once, maybe the Samira and Anivia ultimates are the worst ones. And when those are the absolute worst ones in the game, oh, that's nasty. As the Sylas, if you decide to Death Realm the Samira, decide to Death Realm the Anivia, they are dead. Just straight up gone. You could even take out the Seraphine if that's what you want to do. Zoe has a lot of agency, and we knew that they played the Scion mainly in the mid lane. They had some Sylas games. It's not completely out of left field for them to have picked this one up, but it's counter to the way that it was played previously. Previous game, Scion won through CS, not necessarily through straight fights. Now you're testing your true mechanical skills.
And we're now also seeing the double enchanter being brought out as well for this MF and for this Sylas, and even for the Nunu. Nunu, again, loving that move speed. I have to see exactly when we actually get into the game. You'd assume this is a Sylas mid lane, and then it's going to end up being the Karma top. We said Juniper was a support main, and so putting a support in the top lane like Karma's functions perfectly well up there. There's no issues. It's not like you're playing something like the Soraka top lane or something. You're picking up someone that has often been played in that role.
Karma top is imprinted in my mind because I spent a lot of time on a tournament with a tournament realm that was in 12.5. And that patch, it was the patch where Jinx was absolutely legendary and Karma was played in every single role. And so we saw a lot of Karma in the top lane, and it was able to hold its own against a lot of very good champions. The thing is, Mordekaiser can beat her to death quite easily, and so Juniper needs to be careful. During the early game, she'll be able to lay down a lot of poke. Those mantra-empowered Qs just deal so much damage during the early game. Karma should be fast enough to be able to get away from the Mordekaiser most of the time, but once that 6 is ticked, you're going to need a little bit more help from your jungler, because otherwise, one Death Realm at the wrong time, and you could get absolutely destroyed as Juniper.
And if you are the side of Starlight here, I think you've got to be a little bit concerned about not your lack of damage, but just in general, you've got a lot of eggs in some very small baskets. You've got the MF, who we don't often see considered to be a hyper carry, right? And you've got these two enchanters. You've got the Sylas, who is a melee champion against a lot of... There's like the Anivia slows, for example. The Anivia stuns coming through could really sort of stifle how Sylas wants to play. So if they
yes, but counterpoint... Have you considered Absolute Zero and Bullet Time happening on the same person? Because that's death.
That's a lot of damage, yeah.
That is so much damage. But it's so risky to actually set up. You need your Nunu to just stand there for a couple seconds, absolutely taking damage. And these team fights are going to be chaos. If Absolute Zero goes off out of Chart the Bean, as does the Anivia ulti at the same time, nobody can stand anywhere. What do you do?
And then you've got Encore going on the top of that. You're going to have stuff like the Glacial Prison coming through. If Samira can start stacking early in a fight, she's going to be flying in there. It's just going to be absolute mayhem in these team fights. And again, we say about, Nunu, Absolute Zero on top with the Bullet Time, but you've got so much crowd control coming out from the side of the Soft Sharks. There's got to be concern. You have to wait a lot of this out if you are going to be looking for any kind of combo like this. But we do have, we haven't even really mentioned, Child of Bean loves Nunu. So it could just be this, that she just has a pocket pick that she's so good at that she's going to be able to run away with the game. Just almost like she did last game with Lilia. She could easily try and outfarm someone like this Sedge, look for a few ganks early, and then a lot of the counter jungling now. Be interesting to see with the new patch how strong Nunu's counter jungling actually is.
Yeah, you said that it's not a great gank setup into the mid lane because of that wall out of the Anivia, but the rest of the lanes are pretty vulnerable. I mean, pre-6, I'd love to see a gank top lane to sort of put the Mordekaiser behind, allow your Karma to sit in a much nicer position, and this bot lane should be explosive. if you are the MF Lulu, you don't want it to be too exciting. You've got a lot of poke, so you're just trying to lay that down and sit back. Whereas over on the other side, Super Soft Sharks, you need to get ahead, and the Samira is exactly the place to do it.
So we're going to be getting into game right now. We'll see if these kind of win cons that we've set out can actually be actualized. We'll see, can they make sure to play around the fact they've got these double enchanters? Is Archie, having had a really good performance on the Jinx last game, going to be able to come up big again this game? As we see, again, another line of scrimmage coming out from the side of Starlight. And just a similar sort of mirror, kind of, coming out from the Sharks.
Nothing too interesting happening, and none of these teams have the best invade composition, so unsurprising that things are currently a little bit calm and collected. I'm really interested to see where these junglers are going to start themselves. If you're the Sedge, Fireforce, are you looking to start at the same place? That was a red side, that was a bot side start last time, now a full stack.
They are stacking, potentially looking for this invade, trying to work their way around any vision, but Silas is here to cover. They're not very unlikely to be able to get into this and actually get much out of it, but they are trying. Four members. They have been spotted. Archie Tensi is still in a pretty poor position. Never mind.
There we
They've
go.
got out. They've got out. They know they've been spotted. They're going to leave. Sedge is going to start on her blue, and we see sort of mirrored jungle pathing coming out from Charlottebean.
Yeah, nothing too interesting happening in the beginnings of this early game. Both junglers once again starting towards the bottom side of the map, looking to path up towards the top side. Once again, I'm expecting Firefoxer to not have the quickest of clears. That first leashed clear of a camp for a Sejuani can be so quick when she has a couple of melee champions around her, but unfortunately without that going to be a lot slower, and Nunu and Willem should be able to move much quicker throughout this map. Once again, we could be looking at another double scuttle into just white in terms of CS lead.
And we are seeing here the same jungle items being picked up again. Obviously, was Lilia last game, is now Nunu this game, but the tenacity is going to be massive for this Nunu. I'm a little bit surprised we don't see that Mistwalker coming out for the extra movement speed. But overall, Nunu is just clearing so much quicker. And again, like last game, it was a double scuttle, and Lilia just sort of snowballed and kept taking away camps. Are we going to see the same thing this game?
Well, certainly. Clearly, Charlottebean likes to take these quick farming junglers, the sort that you can just power clear on rather than actually having to go in for those ganks. But at the same time, the gank setup on the Nunu is significantly better than it was on the Lilia. With the Sejuani, though, an early gank here would be incredibly good. I like this play. This is what you want out of your Sejuani, but just gets the pathing wrong and is spotted out.
Again, getting spotted out. We're saying Firefoxer had to make things happen early last game. This game has to make them happen early again, you'd say, given how it seems to be Starlight was so much more comfortable
so far
playing
behind
in those late game fights. And now, with the pathing that Foster's done, it's going to be so far behind, as you're saying. It's just going to be so difficult here for this Sedge to then look for something, because she's not going to be top lane at the time when she needs to be. She's not going to potentially be in bot lane then at the time she needs to be. And this Nunu is just so far ahead.
Sedge clears the chickens pretty quickly, but beyond that, not going to be anywhere nearby for this top lane scuttle. Certainly, might be able to just work their way back down, count their losses, pick up the bot lane one so that they don't get double scuttled again, but they're just leaving themselves so vulnerable to an invade. The style of champion being played out of Charlottebean is kind of showing off exactly what they want to do, and now you're in a position where you can gank the mid lane. If Silas can land those chains, that's a great gank setup, or you can head towards the top side and begin to put this Mordekaiser down so that he doesn't ruin your team during team fights later on.
Mordekaiser really respecting the gank potential from Nunu. Nunu flying in here onto Dreamy Luna, does end up getting the knock-up onto Anivia, but nothing else comes through it. Just invading to see where the hell Sejuani is.
Yeah, what happened? Can see that those chickens have at least been taken down, but just going to walk down here. It is going to be a double scuttle right here, and once again, Charlottebean is showing off their great mastery of this jungle pathing. I don't think they're using that suggested pathing. They don't need it. They know exactly what they're doing, has moved across this map very effectively, and once again, we're just 4 minutes into the game, up 10 CS, and as the Sejuani, this does not feel good. Firefoxer needs to be finding more lanes and more opportunities to get into this game.
And look at Charlottebean there, also with the little Nunu text coming through, and with that biggest snowball ever. Firefoxer looking for something potentially top lane, does get spotted out by the ward. And right now, this is the realization: you've been double scuttled and you've gone, oh no, I've got to go somewhere here. I've got to make something happen. There's really nowhere on the map.
You just have your Gromp up, currently not going to have enough gold to actually be able to complete much of anything, but be able to get a Cinder.
Damage coming through though. Onto Lulu. Boxy Baby pretty low, and that's the first blood going over to Pumpkin X Pie. Archie Tensi being exhausted, being slowed down. Said Samira jumping in. Seraphine no mana. And that's the first blood going over. And that's what you need to be seeing out this Samira bot lane.
Oh yeah, we wanted aggression out of this bot lane. We wanted things to get a little bit more spicy, and there we go. The jungle is firmly in control of Char the Bean, and as such, Starlight. But in the individual matchups, you can see right now that Samira beginning to build their own lead. That's exactly what you want to see. Absolutely love it. Congratulations right there. What the Beans was a nice play, and you can see the power that can come out of a Samira and Seraphine combo. So many slows, so many dashes, and the ability to just make the opposition's lives hell.
And again, this Lulu pick, you know, is very, very strong, but there's a bit of disrespect going in there as Zoe does dash forward, get a bit of damage down onto Luna. But again, a bit of disrespect, I'd say, coming out from Boxy Baby there. There is still a lot of damage in this Samira-Seraphine lane. You were saying that Samira can be set up by this Seraphine. You see there, just running them down. As soon as that first kill goes over, the Samira can still look for those kills onto the MF, who did get exhausted. And the poke damage is going to be so much out of this Seraphine. I mean, this is what we want to see, right? We wanted to see a more aggressive bot lane. We want to see a more aggressive style coming out from the Sharks. And they seem to be at least trying to execute it here in the bot lane.
And it's exactly what we wanted to see, but I expect more out of Fireforcer right here. Is a veteran player, seen them a couple of times, and so should be able to find their way into these lanes.
The double root! The double root coming out from Seraphine, so much damage already down onto Archie, will end up falling, and you imagine this is just going to be the cleanup dashing forward from Samira, and the flash burn on the Lulu. Fireforcer was looking for a gank, didn't even need to make it happen.
No, just sort of... That was a little bit weird out of Fireforce, I have to admit. Had the ability to blast kind over that wall and get involved, decided not to in the end. And I think it would have been prudent to have tried at least. But why not? When your bot lane is getting kills for themselves, this Samira is going to become a problem. And this is a win condition that just wasn't on the cards previously for the Sharks.
I mean, Nunu here snowballing mid. You see the wall.
There we go.
You see the interaction. It's
wall.
Gonna be very hard.
Nope.
Yeah, no, it's going to be so difficult to try and get a gank on this Nivea as long as she's got the mana for wall. And he is... The Nunu, she's trying. She's trying here to see if there's anything available. The dragon is up, trying to spot out if Firefozza is somewhere in the area.
And she saw her.
Things end up being spotted, but again, just going to go back to farming. This is what Nunu likes to do. Already done a bit of counter jungling themselves. And Fozza's hanging around this bot side, potentially looking to try and force a dragon.
This is not League of Legends relevant, but this skin for the Nunu is so troll and so good. I am enjoying the animation for that E so much.
The B flying through. Zoe does end up landing onto Luna. Luna does have to flash, potentially, yes, put into the Egg Fawn, Egg Nivea on the Rift.
That's what you need.
Bit spooky, but this is what you need, right? If you're going to be able to gank with Charla Beans Nunu, you're going to need to get that egg out first, and it's a bit of an overextension, you'd say, from Luna.
Fighting in the jungle?
Much damage. Bit of fighting all across the map, actually. Boxy Baby potentially caught out by Firefozza. Luna looking for the stun, but in comes the Snowball bot lane, goes wide. Samira puts down that wind wall. Nothing else really being used, and a lot of fighting, a lot of abilities used, but no kills.
No kills. Everything ends up fizzling out in the end. You can see just how fast everybody is. When you've got a Lulu being chased around, when you've got Char the Bean on this Nunu as well, everybody can just move at kind of supersonic paces. This Drake has been up for about 4.5 minutes nearly, and nothing really has happened. The Herald has also spawned, and at the minute, things are just very calm and collected, so as long as this doesn't turn into kills down in the spot lane, we need to do what we did last time around and check the CS, because we've once again got a massive CS lead in the mid lane and jungle for Starlight.
And this was kind of semi-expected after the last game, right? We saw how well Zoe could CS in that lane, how much of a lead they managed to force in the Sign versus Ari. As you just see here, Charla Bean taking that dragon that we were saying is surprising it's still up on the map. And look at all the pressure coming through. This could be the kill coming to Boxy Baby. He has to use that wild growth. The ultimate dropped from the Samira. What the Beans picks up Archie, and this just seems to be a bit of a destruction. We said explosive bot lane, Samira's as explosive as ever.
It is, but this Drake gonna go down to the side of Starlight. It's currently 0 kills, but a lot of map pressure and CS leads over for Starlight. Interestingly, in this game, the jungle and mid lane CS gaps are still massive for Starlight, but this game, compared to last game, it's not as dire because up in the top lane, Mordekaiser is winning out. Down in the bot lane, Samira is winning out. And those are very strong champions to have leads.
Yeah, and again, it's nice that we are seeing here a little bit of a fight back from the Sharks, right? After what could have been a bit of a disheartening game one, they are playing through these side lanes. We were saying, give an aggressive bot, give maybe an aggressive top, and they are currently playing towards that. Yes, Karma, once on that first item, is going to be able to impact these fights massively with the Mantra shields, the healing on herself, but as well as whether she goes Shirelles or Moonstone, both of those are really strong items that can actually impact team fights to such a crazy degree. As Firefalls are potentially caught out here by the biggest snowball ever. Nunu manages to get a knock up, but failed. But the chains do come through, landing onto Luna. The Glacial Prison, unfortunately, does look up Zoe, but it is going to be one dead bird. The flash comes forward, absolute zero. And that's one kill over to the side of Starlight.
That was 2 flashes needed to be blown for it, and it looked like a pick onto Firefo, so Dreamy Luna comes over to try to help out. Zoe on the flank, picking up that kill. Now the Rift Herald is up and available, and this turns into a nice couple of plays right here for Starlight, and this is where they're so good. They're so good at taking an inch of space that they maybe didn't need to, and then converting it into as many objectives as possible. They take 1 kill perhaps and they translate it into multiple different objectives, towers or drakes or heralds or barons every single time, and it makes playing against them so oppressive.
And last game, they were given that comfort pick of the Scion. This game, they've got the comfort pick of the Nunu in the jungle, and just seems to be running rings around Firefozzer this game. Picking up the Herald there, you'd imagine, I mean, maybe you'll disagree, but going mid lane, look at the 3 turret planes only available on that mid turret. Like, that's going to be potentially first turret in mid, and it's going to be so hard then, if you start getting vision for Starlight starts pushing to jungle, getting vision, it could be hard for the Sharks to even start to contest around these Drakes, as Zanivia is pushing in mid, but this Herald could be massive.
It really could be. So much impact. 1 turret plate going to go over to Dreamy Luna, which is pretty good, except for the fact that they're down 30 CS, and now with this Herald available, could totally go into the mid lane, like you said. There's a lot of different options, though. Maybe chuck it into the bot lane if you can take out what the Bees.
And the bee is coming in. In comes the biggest snowball ever, dodging that vision. What the Beans has to be really careful. Yes, they're fed, but this Nunu is also so strong. Got that Sunfire Aegis, and that's going to be the first kill over onto that Samira.
Beautiful.
Imagine Pumpkin Pie is going to fall. Going to be gobbled up by the Nunu.
What a lovely play.
Over. Amazing, really. Look at the vision dodged right there from Char the Bean. That is a Nunu expert.
And that Nunu snowball coming in, it gives you so much extra movement speed. Now you're able to chuck this Herald down into the bottom lane, take a ton of damage onto this turret. The response is going to be Firefox trying to stop a turret from dying as... Oh,
and
no.
That's just a solo kill for Zoe in the mid lane.
Zoe's so good.
So good. And even not on their signature Scion.
Yeah.
Picking this Silas up and getting that solo kill there. They pick this Anivia... You know, going, okay, this is a safe pick. We're going to pick it into the Nunu. Won't be able to look for spam ganks in mid lane. And it's just turned out that it's the Zoe show, honestly. Oh, no. That is heartbreaking for Firefalls, the Glacial Prison coming out a little bit late, not interrupting the back of the Lulu. And these are the plays that will haunt you at night after this game.
That hurt deeply. Somewhere deep in my chest, that absolutely aches because it was so close to a pick, and this has been a game so far of so close nearlies. It's so much closer though than in the last game, despite being much bloodier as well. It's only about 1k in it for Starlight because this bot lane has gone so strongly in the favor of Supersoft Sharks. And also interestingly, we've not really talked about this top lane too much. It's a big farm fest, which is what you kind of expect from these two, except all of a sudden, you know, you've got a very well-fed Mordekaiser who's going to be able to join a fight and get involved. The only issue is has gone towards Riftmaker start, which is not the best item pathing for the Mordekaiser.
And yes, this Mordekaiser impact, but something like a Karma, if you do have Fed members, Wildgrowth had to be used in bot lane there. This is just chaotic fighting. Obviously, one had to TP as well. And nothing ends up coming from it. Oh, no, the Beans dropped even. Didn't end up seeing that, sorry, on the Spectate. And that's just another fight that's just going in the way of Starlight. Yes, Zoe's caught out here. It's incredibly fed. Glacial Prison used onto Luna. Luna has to be really careful. The chains does land. That's picking up 1 kill for Zoe, but she's being run down here by Fireflies. Oxymoron catch out Archie Tensi. That's the Death Realm used. Has to drop the bullet time, but that is going to be 1 dead MF. On the other side, you see there the Silas picks up the kill onto
Snowball?
Sejuani. The snowball comes through. This is just absolute chaos. Zoe is joining this fight. Misses the chase
Oh,
of
no.
Pumpkin Pie. And Oxymoron is caught out. Pumpkin Pie so low.
Oh, Zoe!
Full as well. Zoe is just killing everyone. That's a
Double kill.
And that's 4 kills picked up for Zoe in that fight. This Silas is fed out of their mind.
This is exactly your nightmares if you're up against a Silas. You gave over a composition with so many good ultimates, and Zoe is making absolute damn sure you know it. Destroying everybody that they come up against after an impressive laning phase, turning it into kill after kill after kill. That fight started because they found a pick. They ended up escaping death too, and you can see people are having to blow flashes left, right, and center in order to try get away from Char the Bean. The only issue in that team fight was that Tenchi got caught out in the Death Realm, and what can you do about that one? Until you have that QSS built, that's going to be a problem, but if Oxymoron gets 1 kill per team fight, and you get 4 on the backline, you're going to take that every day of the week.
And it looked like they caught Zoe out there. It looked like they managed to catch out this Silas. Ended up being, nope, you're not stuck in here. I'm not stuck in here with you, you're stuck in here with me. Archie Tenchi potentially being caught out here by Fireflies in the bot lane. Boxy does have the wild growth. Sedge is going to have to try the hardest here. Glacial Prison is available, doesn't end up being used. No, nothing used from the side of Starlight. And maybe this is another game that's just going to slowly slip out of the favor of the Sharks.
It's what it feels like once again. There's a couple of very fed members, and it felt so much better because you had that Samira getting quite fed. You can see Beans is doing a ton of damage to Juniper, just keeping them honest, but it's a karma. So much heal and shield power and the ability to just run circles. Next Drake spawning in about 4 minutes time. The first Baron going to be up in about 3.5. And so for the minute, it's just tower objectives to go. And this mid lane tower is very low. You can see Archie Tenchi and Boxy Babe looking for it, but...
no. Boxy Baby is caught out here. Glacial Prison is available. Never mind. Does Whimsy away. And ends up nothing from it, even though the wall was really great from Luna catching off this Lulu. In goes the biggest symbol of it, just decides not to. Just decides against it. This Silas, by the way, I don't even think has backed with the gold they got from what is essentially a quadra kill. So after seeing what is spent...
Everfrost.
Yeah.
Not even an aggressive Silas build. This is still a I want to help my team out build. Like we saw previously from the Scion. Oh!
Oh, in mid lane, a huge encore lands down onto Archie. Does get that kill. Picked up Luna, manages to get a little bit back. Zoe is here. Not spent gold, but doesn't matter. Still so incredibly strong on this Silas. Boxy Baby is playing with fire a little bit here. There are 4 members collapsing down upon her. Snowball ends up being cancelled by the wall, but Lulu just runs away.
Getting pushed off of this Herald, though, and with only a couple more minutes to fight for it, you can see Mordekaiser making their way over. This is going to be a big 5v5.
The stolen encore lands onto Pumpkin Pie. Zoe is absolutely massive in this fight. The damage she's going to put down is huge. They are trying to shut her down. Zoe is just tanking everyone. Doesn't matter. Samira damage, who cares? I've got all the damage in the world. CC'd by Firefosser, but it really won't matter. There's going to be another Kingslayer coming through. Absolute 0 lands onto 3, ends up picking up the Samira, and this is going to be an absolute destruction. An absolute destruction of the Sharks boxer.
Oh my lord, what a team fight that was right there. Boxy Baby going to take that final kill. A little bit of, hey, I want to get in on that one. Oxymoron was making their way from bot lane up towards, but it didn't even matter. Zoe, this Silas, chef's kiss. Just playing it so beautifully and right on the edge. This is why they went with that Everfrost as the first item, because it doesn't matter that you're getting caught out by multiple members. You can keep them stunned up, you can just be annoying, and you can survive for so long. Yeah, sure, Silas builds. There are Silas builds out there that deal more damage, but there are none that allow you to survive for this long and allow the rest of your team to catch up to you when you go flying in.
And we were saying double enchanter, you've got limited carries on this team. This Silas is such a carry. It's 2 items. There's the Dark Seal 10 stacks. You imagine Magi's coming through each other, Bean playing aggressively as well. They don't want to give Firefosser any room in this jungle. Pumpkin Pie does have to flash. There's just a crazy fight going on. The CC crawl across the board. The Encore lands on Boxy Baby. There is the Wild Growth available.
Watch the beams!
Go forward. Infernal Trigger ends up being polymorphed. And the beat goes in, doesn't get much. And the bee wielding Nunu gets out. So a fight, but no one dies.
I got so excited. That looked like such a good Infernal Trigger, and then polymorph. This is what I meant in the last game. When this Lulu was in the hands of Pumpkin, it just didn't look so good because it was all about those reactive plays when what they needed was aggression and engage. Whereas there is plenty of engage out of Starlight's composition, and so this Lulu can just be there to stop things from going wrong rather than needing to instigate things. Juniper.
Juniper potentially getting caught out here. 3 members coming up on top.
Oh!
That Karma. That's a huge bullet time. Pumpkin drops so low, and they aren't able to even pick off the Karma support top lane.
Right before the Drake comes through as well.
It's just, there's so much damage coming out from Archie in this game. Like, it's actually crazy as here comes the Nunu, biggest snowball ever. Doesn't end up catching on to anyone. Sharks are backing off. Luna has dropped to half HP, incredibly low. This dragon is going to go to Starlight. Zoe doesn't care. Zoe's
in the death row.
This kill. Who cares about Infernal Trigger? Oh no, Zoe, you may be extended here though. There is
got one though.
Luna,
and that's the time you need. Bought the time that the team needed. Gave her over a massive shutdown, which is not ideal, but that's all the time you need to put your team onto that sole point. And the amount of time she survived, as well as picking up that kill onto Dreamy Luna, absolutely insane. This Sylas is just getting stronger and stronger and stronger. And it's not like on the other side you have better scaling. You can't just wait it out. These teams are pretty evenly matched. With the Karma and the Lulu, it's really hard to kill anybody in these big team fights. The only reason Zoe died was because they were in amongst 5 members by themselves, which is not going to happen again, you have to imagine.
And working towards this death cap, once that comes down, that's going to be one-shot potential coming out from Zoe on this Sylas, who they did this on the Scion last game, right? They played aggressive, they pulled 4 members towards them, and objectives end up being taken. And you can't, yes, you can invest resources onto Zoe, yes, there's a shutdown. But overall, you end up losing out on the play because there's a kill goes over to the Sylas and you lose the dragon. Yes, you get the shutdown gold, but now you're on sole point here as Starlight. And what is how the Sharks going to respond? Because Infernal Soul on this composition will be just terrifying.
Herald's still going to get that run through as well. You have to respond by finding an angle into these fights, but currently, look at this. Juniper has teleported down towards the bot side, pushing all this pressure onto this Baron. And if you are the Super Soft Sharks, do you actually want to engage into your opposition right now? Because anytime they have Zoe with them, it's terrifying. Pushing forwards, though, this is very bold, and for the minute, it seems like it's working out. You are giving free time, though, for this bot lane to be pushed in. I didn't expect to say split push Karma previously, but here it is.
The TP is available for Juniper, so if they wanted to join this fight, it would be plausible, but this Sylas as well, we're saying how many ults he has to steal this game. And just look at the Encore already for the Seraphine has just played almost into the hands of the Sylas more than the Seraphine has been able to make it work. And this is the fear. With this fed Sylas, the damage he's going to put down, you've got to somehow shut him out. Maybe you have to put him into that realm of death from the Mordekaiser and pray that you can win the rest of the team.
But Oxymoron doesn't win that fight.
Exactly. Sylas wins that 1v1. Oh, look at the big snowball ever. What the beans maybe caught out? There's the wall.
There's the wall. Every time that engage is going to come through, there's going to be a wall. Luckily, though, you're just about putting this pressure down. Uh-oh.
Boxy Baby is caught out by the Encore from Pumpkin Pie. Has to flash. Has to use that Wild Growth to get away. Ignite was dropped, but nowhere near low. So that's already Matichada being pulled back by Maud. But that's the kind of picks you need to find. And if you're not ending up removing that Lulu off the map, these fights, they're going to be tough.
And that's fine. Right now, as the side of Starlight, you are absolutely happy with the way that this game is playing out. It doesn't matter that you keep not quite getting the Baron, because you just need to keep pressure there so that 5 members of the Sharks need to respond, and you can get your split push Karma, because that's a thing now. Just pushing these waves through, constantly having map control, which means the second that you do pick up that Baron, you're going to be in such a good position to push through and pick up towers, rather than having to reset your waves and get things sorted out in that way.
And the other thing that comes out with this composition character for Starlight is when you're Groot with double Enchanter, with this Moonstone on the Karma, it does seem to be they're going double Putrefier, which is an interesting decision, but the double Enchanter means that Zoe, who already was your carry really in the last game, it's so much time taken up for the side of Sharks on that Scion. This game on the Sylas, not only is Zoe taking up your time, there's so much damage coming out.
They're shredding you too.
Just destroying you.
The Scion wasn't doing small amounts of damage in the previous game. I'd be interested to check the damage graph, but this time around, this Sylas just destroying people. Drake spawning in a minute's time, you can see everybody trying to fight their way forward for just little scraps of vision. Sylas up towards the top side, has the teleport, so going to be perfectly happy to be up here. We saw some great flanks. Is it going to go through? Oh, that's missed
Glacial
as well.
Prison,
That's now big ult down.
Just not going wide, just a little bit too short. Doesn't end up picking up Char the Bean. Encore does land on Luna.
Char the Bean
flashed. The wall comes down
Oh,
from
good
Luna.
flash.
Char the Bean is just going to run this out. There's a Karma here to keep her alive. Silas, on the meanwhile, is pushing in top lane, so Oxymoron can't sort of respond to this fight with their own TP. And yes, they've been pushed off the dragon here, Starlight, but if Silas Backs gets that death cap, the 5-5 is going to be terrifying.
It will be, but that was a really nice attempted pick onto the jungle. If Char the Bean goes down there, it's bad. Zoe?
The wall comes through, does limit Zoe's movement off of that TP, but Zoe is so strong, dashing forward.
Oh,
time comes
bullet
through.
time.
It's huge onto so many members. As you were saying, on top of that absolute zero, way too much damage. And that ends up being the death of Luna as well. 2 members fall for the side of the Sharks. They're going to run away with their tail between their legs. But in goes Nunu, biggest snowball ever. Lands onto
Zoe!
And Zoe just goes in. What the beans doesn't matter. You've been turned into a can of beans. I don't know. But here goes Zoe again. In goes the
Zoe's
chain,
not done.
Zoe doesn't care. Zoe will kill every member of your team. Doesn't even need the death cap. And this, you imagine, is just going to end up being the inhib. And they could even potentially even try for the game. But you
don't need to.
The dragon.
There's no need. You've got a Drake available to you. You've got a Baron available to you. Back off. Pick yourself. Zoe. Zoe. Okay, we're going to ignore that play. You have a Drake available to you. What a fight that was. The teleport out of the Silas, absolutely excellent. The teleports actually out of Zoe have been great. There are a couple of Scion flanks in Game 1, now a couple of teleport flanks on the Silas in Game 2 that have just been beautiful. This is going to be Soul Point right here for Starlight, and Sheffield are putting themselves in an excellent position to win this game.
And you thought that Zoe was doing a lot of damage on the Silas now with that Infernal Soul. That's some one-shot potential right there.
Yep.
And the death cap completed, 10 stacks on the Dark Seal. It's going to be terrifying. If you've already got to deal with Zoe, and then we saw that the bullet time just does so much damage. It doesn't really matter how far behind Archie is. Bullet time on top of that absolute zero, way too much damage. Karma keeping everyone alive, Lulu keeping everyone alive. And honestly, we might only see one more team fight of this game, and it's going to have to be an absolute miracle coming out from the Sharks.
Right now, Starlight looking to punch their ticket into the finals of this women's and non-binary League of Legends tournament for Newell, taking themselves all the way, and what a performance it's been from them so far. Supersoft Sharks, they've tried, but currently things are just not quite going their way. If they want to get back into this game, if they want to take us to that Game 3 and put themselves in the finals, they're going to need to start hitting some of those key ultimates, because currently Zoe is making them look silly by hitting their ultimates when they can't.
And we now see they've got to try and make something happen. This Encore is such a strong team fight ultimate. Glacial Prison as well. So they do have they do have ultimates capable of producing a comeback. But right now, again, we say the Mordekaiser. Yes, he's not really been in this game. He has the ability to maybe lock some people up. The snowball does come through, or the B-ball rather, comes through. But that's just a little bit, bit of pain coming through. Zoe's so far in the back line, lands the Encore onto just Oxymoron. Encore lands onto Zoe. Zoe is being locked up. There's so much damage.
There we go. There you go.
Zoe has been shut down. So this Baron not really able to be taken by
supers
Starlight.
in the base.
But there's supers in the base. They're going to still call for this. It looks like Starlight here. But there are still 3 members available around. That's so much damage from Juniper onto Luna. And
why wouldn't you call for this? When there's supers in the base, you have to send members back. It is still going to be a 4 versus 4, but this is the best opportunity Supersoft Sharks are going to get. They have to make the most of it.
And that bullet time is actually massive. Luna drops so low. There is the use of the Death Realm onto Archie Tensi, as it does look like Char is moving forward, but there's no one dying yet. Archie Tensi wins the fight in the Death Realm. What is just no man's land, no support, no help, is going to fall. 2 members run away with their tail between their legs. And the wall does at least block the stone.
Juniper
flashes forward, gets rooted on the Glacial Storm. But Jesus, this is going to be an absolute destruction for Starlight. They're going to get that Baron. And Zoe is now back on the map.
Holding hope in these games for the opposition is what makes them fun. However, this is a 10k lead, an Infernal Soul. This is a Baron as well, going into the back pockets of Starlight. And this game, while not well and truly over, I've seen crazier things maybe once or twice. This game feels so solidly in the favour of Starlight. At this point, I think it's just up to them when they decide they want to end the game, because they might be having so much fun that they don't need to. Over-aggression out of Zoe, but it didn't matter. The rest of the members are still able to step up. Sure, it's been the Zoe game through and through, but it's clearly not that they are the only carry. Everybody else in that team fight, once Zoe had gotten themselves killed, stepped up and were able to do good things. Tenchi using the flash, the cleanse to such good effect to be able to just avoid dying to Oxymoron, even in the death realm.
And what sort of a silent start of this game is Shah on this Nunu. 4-0-10, 3.5 items, and just a mastery of this champion, really. We saw it early with some of that vision, the play around vision. We saw it with their snowballs. And this is a kind of pick you do have to be a little bit worried about, in this fight, going into what we assume, we're saying the final, they're trying to punch their ticket there now. This Nunu has come up massive, honestly, in this game. It's going to be a real difficult turnaround for the Sharks. They're going to have to try something. And realistically, it's got to be a 5-5, and it's got to be Glacial Prison, it's got to be Encore, and it's got to be a lot of CC, but what the Beans is being caught out, and that's a just disintegrated Pumpkin Pie.
Oh my god.
Gobbled down. Zoe has so much damage, and it's now a 4v5 against a team that's much more fed than you with Baron. You've got to make something happen. Zoe dashes forward, doesn't end up going for the chains on anyone, but you already see here 3 members of Starlight are pushing the top lane while 2 pushing the bot lane, and they're just being pulled apart here. Oh my god, Luna's been destroyed as well. The damage from Zoe on this Silas is so gross. What the
Children, avert your eyes!
It's so gross. Oh my god, it's a massacre. Oh, it's horrible. The atrocity, the humanity of the situation. Zoe is destroying on this Silas 12-2-4, and you can only imagine this is going to be the end of the game. What is going on? It's just absolute, just a slaughter. Please, just don't, no more, please. Zoe has got that death realm. It's going to be able to put anyone in it. The bullet time is huge amounts of damage. Pumpkin Pie drops super low. And that's the end of the game. That's the end of the game. And that's the finals ticket punched for the side of Starlight. And Bloxer, this has been a bit of a destruction of a 2-0.
What a performance this has been. 2-0s all the way through during the playoffs for Starlight. 2-0'd Team 7 in round 1. 2-0'd Supersoft Sharks in round 2. This team looks unstoppable. What a performance out of every single member. Zoe specifically, wow. Wow, that was impressive overall. But at the same time, everybody played well. I can't point at one singular member and go, yeah, you did not look great.
And exactly right. I mean, you still have Shah, the Bean, has looked great in both games today, on the Lilia, on the Nunu. Bot lane as well, coming like that MF right there, the damage that she was putting through in those final fights with the bullet time, massive. Lulu seems to be such a strong pick as well. It did performances across the board. And when you've got someone who, we were saying, Juniper, she is not a top laner, brings out the Shen, brings out the Karma, and performs on both. Performs on both.
Yep.
Crazy.
If you've got somebody who's playing off-role and playing that well, the Karma was dealing ridiculous amounts of damage. Mantra-empowered Qs. Whew. Disgusting, but everybody playing so beautifully. Commiseration for Supersoft Sharks. They did really well throughout this tournament, even if things didn't actually end up going their way. There were a couple of bright spots. That bot lane Samira play was pretty good, but they were just outclassed